rocking and keep knocking. Whether you Louboutin it up or Reebokin, you see the hate that they serving on a platter. So what we gon' have, dessert or dessert? I never thought I'd be in love like this.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Hustle Woman Radio, where the joy of the Lord is our strength, so that the obstacles of life don't become our kryptonite. This is the station where you will learn, laugh, and get loved on. I am your host, Aquila Maddox, the Hustle Woman herself, also known to many of you as the Inspirationalist. I have a passion to see women walk in joy, peace, and love within themselves as well as their relationships. That itself causes a major impact on your relationships as well as your self-esteem. Because I don't want to see my queens depressed and unaware of their self-worth. Well, I wanted to start out by saying Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you had a phenomenal Christmas, enjoying time with your family and making memories. I'm super excited for the new year. We've got Wife U underway, you guys, the online course. It's going to be opening pretty soon here for registration. Classes will be starting in January. This is an opportunity to inspire women to become wives that transform lives. And if you know me and you've heard my spiel, I believe that being a wife is more than a position. It's a posture. It's how you think. It's how it's what your heart is after. It's more than just your position after your I do. Believe it or not, it starts even before you get married. So I want to cultivate the character of a wife and all of my lovely queens out there. Even if you decide to be unmarried, I believe that we still have the ability to be wives because of who we are, not because of what we do. Today, I'm super, super excited because I have another guest on the show, and I love talking and sharing amazing, inspirational information and messages with you, but it is definitely amazing and phenomenal to share the stories of other people, because this is an opportunity for you to not only know that there's hope out there for anything that we're talking about, but it becomes hope for the person sharing their story. So today we are going to talk about love transformation and how to empower your stayability in challenging relationships. So today, you guys, without further ado, we have the amazing Jasmine Sims. She is a claims examiner. She's got listen, she is the epitome of a Proverbs 31 woman out there hustling and flowing, doing her thing, you guys. I'm telling you, she is absolutely amazing. She has a bachelor's in English creative writing. She's going to probably correct me on that. Don't listen. You are more than welcome, Jasmine, to correct me on anything that I say that makes me sound completely ignorant about what I'm saying in your bio. I'm just saying. Okay. She's got a master's in adult education and training, and then she's currently pursuing her master's, in human resources. She's a veteran, you guys. Whoop, whoop. She's a veteran in the Army. She's married to a veteran. She's the daughter of 2 veterans, and she's the mother of 2 veteran-to-be's. No, I'm just teasing, guys. Okay, I don't really know if that's the truth. But I do know that she is the mother of 2 beautiful children. Say hi to everybody, Jasmine.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Okay, one more time, just in case. Okay.
Hello, how are y'all doing?
Awesome. So I got a couple of questions. I want you to give us a little bit of information about you and yourself. Like, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Virginia. I was born in Maryland. My mom was in the Navy, so I was born on the Navy base there on Pax River. But I grew up and am from Norfolk, Virginia. So not born and raised, but raised and raised. But I currently reside in Goodyear, Arizona.
Okay. So that means it takes about a good year, you guys, to get to her location. I'm just saying. I think all the cities. I think it's all the cities here have they're very intentional in their names. Like when you go to Surprise, it's because it's like surprise, you actually made it, because it's an actual trek, you guys. It's a trek. So hold on. So did you move here from Virginia or what?
Yeah. So I moved here from California.
Okay.
So I'm from Virginia. I got married. My husband is a veteran of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So we've lived in North Carolina, we've lived in California, we've lived in Virginia. The last time he deployed to Afghanistan, I moved here after some health issues. I was supposed to be here with family. That did not work out. Okay. And it just didn't. But it was a blessing because I ended up getting my own apartment and started my first master's, and I've been here ever since. So it's kind of an ordeal. I got here.
Oh, awesome. Super, super good, because I think life looks like that for us. We have this amazing plan, and we just lay and map that whole situation out. With no, like real intent on that thing going the way we plan.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then reality check, ladies and gentlemen, because you only make the plans. That's about it. It's like an amazing blueprint, but in that plan, nothing tells you. I feel like it's like the GPS. Although she can foresee, Siri, whoever you got, Google-ette, whatever you want to call it, because I don't have an Apple. I'm just saying. So Google-ette, whoever it is that's directing your, giving you direction to where you feel you want to go. Mm-hmm. They can even tell you that there's traffic, but they don't tell you how long the traffic is. They don't tell you what the detour is going to look like and all that other stuff. It doesn't even tell you that realistically, you may just not want to go at that exact moment. Like, you think that this is the destination. If you ever wanted to go to this store, I heard about this new store, but the time that it takes for you to sit in the car because of maybe an accident might not be worth the trip.
Right.
You may want to reroute and go your butt back home. Basically. Sit down somewhere and try again tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. So those are things that, cannot be accounted for, even if you've mapped out, your plan. And so I think that in life, it looks just like that. I've mapped out some things that I want to see happen and come to fruition, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen in the same exact time that I thought it would happen. Most people are like, I want to get married by a certain age. Little do you know, the more experience in life that I think, and you can tell me if this is true because you are still married. Mm-hmm. Amen. And I've shared my story that I'm not married, but I do believe, even in my experience of being married, that the experiences that you bring to the table are absolutely valuable. Mm-hmm. And the more experience, I think, the better. I'm not saying that it's your fix-all, but it does give you hope, because I'm gonna tell you, the first whirlwind that hit my relationship, I don't know if they can hear the Carrie Hilson in the background. Sometimes love comes around and it knocks you down. So the first experience in my relationship, it knocked us down. But it's because I hadn't gone through any other thing in my life that showed me, honest and truthfully, me and my husband at the time, that listen, it comes around, but you get back up if it knocks you down, and just keep, and that's what it looks like. Because I think I'm a tough cookie. But when you're dealing with a whole nother person and all that other stuff and things like that, and life experiences and life, transition or whatever, like you said, families, mm-hmm. you had expectancy for a family support to be here that wasn't here. And however that story unfolded, you were like, oh, it knocked me down because it was not what I anticipated. Absolutely. But it was still doable, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's really good to share. I mean, for you to have shared with us that our plan isn't always looking like what we think it's going to look like. So how long have you been married?
I have been married, actually, on the 1st, it will be 11 years.
Wow.
11 years.
Okay, you guys, listen, that is phenomenal because, in today's age and society, and I know it makes me sound really old. I'm only 34. I'm not ashamed of that. So you'll hear me throw that number around like it's nothing, because it ain't. I'm not old. Watch your mouth. So anyhow, it's not. Jasmine, they better not play with me. No. I'm not old.
I'm right there. I'm right behind you.
I'm just saying. Listen, doggone it. Okay. I'm not old. Watch your mouth. At all. So anyhow, that's phenomenal to be, in this age to still be married for anything longer than 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, because, I'm being honest, in my second marriage, I was married 5 months. And even though we were in a relationship for about 3.5, 4 years, mm-hmm. it knocked me down and I quit. I didn't get back up. I just said, I'm done. I'm out of here. Peace out. Adios, amigo. Hey, padre. I'm not the...
You had to go.
I was out. Right. And it's because, our endurance sucks. Let's just be real. Our endurance is not always up to par as I'd like to think of it. But I know that as God has given me revelation, endurance is super, super duper major when it comes to relationships. That's the only way that we get to see love transformation happen is through our endurance. So to say that, I'm super excited for them to really hear your story, in which I'm going to get my talkative self off the mic so you can actually share it. But But 11 years is I commend you.
Thank you.
And then knowing, like you shared with me the information, the details about something, you guys are gonna listen. It is just super inspiring. But let's start off by you telling me where you two met, and we'll start going from there.
Oh my Lord, it feels like forever ago. Okay, at the time, I was a junior in college. I was pursuing my English degree at the time, and I always knew I wanted to get married young, honestly, but it wasn't one of those situations where I was necessarily looking for a husband, but and it happened. I don't know how to explain it, but it literally was like, Lord, I am done with, even though I was 19, I'm done with, having boyfriends or whatnot. I want to be done with all of that. And a mutual friend of ours introduced us. He was in California at the time. I was in Virginia. So literally our whole relationship started over a 9-hour phone conversation. I'm not kidding. It was a phone conversation. So it was that corny, you got the butterflies in your stomach moment. I knew that this was who I was supposed to be with. Yes, I don't expect it to happen like that for everybody, but that's how it happened to me. And we physically met, I guess you could say, 2 weeks later after that. And from then forward, we've basically been, other than military service and other than just physical obligations, we were together. And 9 months after that, we got married.
Wow.
Right before he was deploying to Iraq, which really wasn't uncommon at the time. A lot of people got married before deployment because, quite frankly, they didn't know if they were going to come back. Yeah. And to be, it was his first deployment, but we didn't know if he was going to come back. We didn't know. So we went ahead and we weren't planning that. We were going to originally wait till after I graduated and things like that. But I think just looking back on how things unfolded, I don't think we would have got married if we waited.
Okay.
So, but we got, the first time I laid eyes on him, I just knew.
But this was it.
This is it. I was 19.
Sparks was flying.
Lord have mercy. Yes. the sparks and everything else was flying. So, and then we've been together since we were 19.
That's awesome.
We're both 31 now. He won't admit it, but he's 31.
Okay. Look, don't tell his name in case. No, I'm just teasing.
No, he is 31. He will be upset. But yeah, we've been together since we were 19.
That's awesome. And so even though sparks were flying and butterflies exist, I think what people oftentimes don't account for, especially for some of the new marriages, because I'm a relationship coach. I'm super passionate about people being very aware. Mm-hmm. I'm working on a project right now to really give people that real truth revelation about what love is, because it ain't always the Cinderella story.
It sure is not.
In fact, it's probably very far from it. And
very
I tell people that I think that the Cinderella story is probably not a real good example or even an analogy to use where marriage and things are concerned. I think it's more like Beauty and the Beast. Like there's this person that is locked in this place there, or seems like they're locked because it's physically there, committed. Mm-hmm. But really what's happening is through your patience, your constant flow of love, which is patience, kindness, long suffering, all those things, you begin to free the king of the beast.
Amen.
That is within this beast. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a very good resemblance of what your relationship actually, or explanation of what your relationship looked like, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Because things started out really great for you guys. Mm-hmm. Life started to change in a very fast and a real way when after he was deployed.
Yes.
What was he exposed to? Just like very briefly, without giving all the details, but what was he exposed to?
I mean, everything you can think of about war. I mean, if you've seen American Sniper, if you've heard about it, it was exactly what you thought it was. They're in the middle of the desert. They're in the middle of nowhere. There's bullets flying. He almost died a couple of times. He almost got blown up a couple of times. It's hard to put into words because I wasn't there. But I know, what I know is, and what I have heard is that what you've seen on that movie is not, it's the movies today that depict war, as opposed to like Vietnam and things like that. You didn't have a lot of actual footage, you know what I mean, or realistic dramatic footage, but what you see now is pretty close to what they experienced over there. It's scary, especially for our generation. If you really think about it, and not to go off on a tangent, but if you just think about it for a second, our generation grew up playing video games, and we didn't know anything about war. And
we weren't dealing with the riots and things like that, right? Where that was our life here in America too, fighting for freedom and equality and things like that.
Absolutely.
So to actually, like you said, to see this stuff up front and close and personal, it is not necessarily, like you said, it's not something that we're necessarily able to deal with so easily.
Absolutely.
But so even with that being said, you continue to to be obviously married and deal with and endure all of the transitions that involved and things like that. But then I realized, like I said, based off of the story, you guys, that she began to, there was another very major transition you guys had to deal with, because I remember you sharing something with me about getting pregnant.
Yes. Okay,
so what happened in that there?
Well, okay, so I've been pregnant probably, I guess, 6 times. So the first pregnancy was right after he got back from the deployment, and I miscarried. The second pregnancy was with our son, Tony. And so that pregnancy, he actually, after, I guess I was around 7 or 8 months when he deployed for the second time to Iraq. I had Tony. Tony was healthy. Tony was fine. And then just short of him turning 7 weeks, he died of SIDS. So my husband never met our son. And that was very traumatizing to him because, as a man, to have your son, to have your namesake at that,
Absolutely.
that was his pride and joy. That was his mark on the world. And to lose him without physically, getting to see him and hold him, that was extremely traumatizing. That was extremely, that was a lot for us to deal with. And so after that, he came back, and we ended up getting pregnant with my oldest daughter now, Jazzy. So she came, right after that, and she's been a total blessing to both of us.
Absolutely.
I don't know, and I've said this before, and I'm not saying this to be dramatic, I don't know that I would be here without Jazzy.
Yeah.
Because, that first year after he passed away was the hardest. I mean, him passing away was already the hardest thing I had to go through in my life, but dealing with my husband, dealing with myself after he passed away and being pregnant, I don't know that if I didn't have Jazzy that I would have been able to make it, because for the next couple of years, honestly, but with everything he dealt with war, when he flew back, I'm backing up a little bit, when he flew back, he lost his friend. The day that he took off, his friend, a very good friend of his, died, which he felt guilty about because he felt he should have been there. And essentially all of that anger, all of the hurt, all of the fear, all of the everything got put onto me from him. And so not only was I dealing with my own guilt, because no matter what happened to my son, that's still my son. Even if it wasn't my fault that he passed away, even if there was nothing I could have done, that's my
Absolutely.
son.
It's just it's like it's a part of the process.
Absolutely.
Where you're kind of backtracking your decisions, saying, what could I have done differently? How could I have prevented this and stuff like that? So that is completely understandable. So so now we've got this story as we are like building this thing up that you're young, because you guys were young, even though you're still young now, because we just established that 34 ain't even old.
No.
So but seriously, that you guys are still young, still young. He's dealing with, this whole life and death thing is very real for him, because it's different.
Absolutely.
Life and death is, I told people I believe that death emphasizes life and the value of life, but it also, very much so reminds you how temporary this life is. So everybody around you, every relationship is extremely important.
Absolutely.
Very, very much very important. So children at that time, like for me, I suffered a loss, recently this year. And so my children are important, but they've become just that much more important to me because of the absence of someone very close and near to dear to me. My grandparents passing away made me appreciate history, because I'm like, where the heck are all my ancestors that can tell me some of the stories that I wanted to pass? So it's like death is very, very valuable as well. But it can shake your life up to where you're like, everything becomes like, oh my God, okay, I need my wife, I need my children and stuff. And so for him to come home and be excited about this full-term pregnancy, and then to learn that they lost. So yes, and then he loses a really close friend and all this other stuff. And all this stuff is just adding to your young marriage.
Absolutely.
Because you guys weren't even married how long? How many years at that time? Like
maybe 2 years.
2 years.
Maybe. I mean, we were, I want to say we had both turned 20. If we weren't 21, we were 22.
So that's a lot to deal with. That's very heavy for anybody. But then to be young as you're navigating life, I'm just barely breaking the barriers of adulthood.
Absolutely.
You know, and then to turn around and have to deal with all these, what I call grown-up situations. Those are like grown-up stuff, right?
Yeah,
like I'm still at 21 trying to pick out the fingernail polish for my toes and my, you know, my fingernails and coordinating with outfits, right?
Absolutely.
You're still trying to hang out with girlfriends and go to the mall still, you know what I'm saying? And this is the things that you guys were dealing with at that time. So your marriage and your relationship began to take a very drastic, it took a very drastic hit and began to take a spiral.
Absolutely.
So let's hit on that a little bit. Like, what was that like?
I mean,
or what did that consist of?
I mean, definitely my husband, he definitely turned to anything. I basically said that he turned to anything that made him feel good at the time. So that included, you know, alcohol. That included other women. That included basically whatever made. I mean, some of it I know about, that I learned about. Some of it I didn't. There are certain things I probably won't ever know, and I'm not going to ask. But I mean, I know enough to know that, you know, it was a very, very dark road that we went down. And he, you know, several times, you know, he didn't treat me like a wife, especially the first 6 months. It was basically, I was there. And he wanted to hurt me because he was hurt. He didn't put his hands on me or anything to that nature, but emotionally, I was already on the floor. You know,
because he was starving you.
Yes.
Of the emotional connection.
Absolutely.
And intimacy, because his son is gone.
His son's gone.
His best friend is gone.
Yes.
His family dynamic is different too.
Yes.
Like his background, because that's stuff that we don't consider a lot of the times. When people start going through situations, we would begin to identify with what we know. And we don't realize what a person doesn't know until something happens.
Absolutely.
Because you may have been able to, let's say, take on, you know, the ability to, hey, I want to move forward, but maybe because you've seen people move forward. But if you've never seen people, like I know people right now who are 40 years old who have never experienced a close death. So they don't know how they're going to respond.
Absolutely.
We can practice and, and even premeditate in our mind what it's going to look like, how we're going to respond, how we're going to deal with it. But you never know until that happens. So you didn't know that this brother was going to turn to this type of a response.
No.
In the loss of the child that you lost as well. That you carried, nurtured, loved, was holding and kissing and loving on, and bam, right?
Right.
So I want to know, what would you say the hardest situation was for you to actually make a decision to endure in your marriage?
It would never occur to me to leave. He told me to leave. And he would tell me, you can go back home. I was pregnant with our daughter. So he knew my family would, as far as my immediate, my nuclear family, my mother, my stepfather, my father, would help me. They would take me in. But it never hit me to go. Now I want to make sure that I'm clear on one thing. On a certain level, I had felt that maybe I deserved his ire, his negativity, because of what I felt. But on the other side, no matter what I felt, it was never an idea of, I'm going to leave my marriage. I prayed about it. Don't get me wrong. I prayed about it because I wasn't and have never been a dumb person. It was never a situation where like I couldn't go anywhere else. I prayed like, Lord, this isn't love. I know this isn't him. I knew to a certain degree it wasn't him. I knew what he was showing me wasn't love. I knew all of this, but I said, Lord, in any situation we've had, I've always said the same thing. Lord, if I'm supposed to leave, if this is not my path, if I'm holding on, because you hear it all the time, sometimes you're trying to hold on to a situation that God's trying to break. I'm like, if this is what you're doing, if this is that situation, please help me to let him go right now, because I will let go. But if this is not the situation, if that's not what this is, then please give me the strength to endure. you know, and my resilience always got stronger.
Amen.
It was never a case of, okay, I'm done. I got to figure out a way to go. I need to figure out something to do to leave. It was never that. It was always a situation of, okay, well, clearly I'm staying. So what do I need to do now? So that's basically what it was for me.
So there was really nothing too hard that you would say. I mean, because I just said, what was the hardest thing that you could have to endure within your marriage? And you just said, basically, I'm going to just knock that out of the water and say there's nothing that would have happened that would have been too hard for you to leave.
I mean, ultimately, the only thing that I've ever said that I could definitively say for me would have been that moment is if he had put his hands on me, I can say, because that's something I grew up with seeing between my parents. So that is one thing that for me, I would not. But he's never even.
But was there anything in the relationship that you felt weighed heavier than the other?
No, because essentially, and to be honest with you, I don't know if it's because it really all happened at once. To be honest with you, it was not just, okay, this wasn't like a one time, like it was a one thing after the other that I dealt with for years. So for the first year, it was just like, it was blind. I knew he was doing wrong. I knew he was out there doing wrong. And he didn't really hide it. He didn't do a good job of hiding it, and he really didn't try to hide it. I made the resolve to stay. I knew that's what the Lord wanted me to do. So essentially, every time a situation came up, it hurt me equally. But every time I prayed about it, my resilience remained strong, that this is the person you need to be with, and you need to hold on. I'm going to carry you through this.
Awesome.
That's what I felt.
Now, what would you say that I would want to know, like, if you could name one thing that you feel helped you to endure all the things we just talked about to staying married, endure your marriage. If there could be one thing you identify, what would that be? That one thing that you would say, this is what I held on to that helped me endure my marriage.
I never got the signal to leave. I felt in my heart that God had me in such a position that let me back up. You know how you always hear the term that when you're fed up, you're gonna leave. You're gonna know. You're always gonna know when that time comes. You don't know what it is, but it will show itself, and you will know. Okay, now it's time for me to go. I never got that signal. I held on to my faith that the Lord told me that this is what I needed to do. And he's never, in the 11 years that I've been married to him, told me otherwise. And I feel that he would reveal to me if that's what I needed to do. Instead, he always revealed the opposite.
Well, see, in a lot of relationships where that people have chosen to remove their endurance from, or, I believe that a lot of people, they've said that, like, oh, this is my, the Lord has given me this word that says that I should leave, and, I shouldn't endure, and I should go, and I don't have to take this, and I don't deserve this. And, that would be a whole other conversation, because I can share information that I would, that I believe that there are times when we are actually seeking an answer, and we come up with it. I did it. I'm like, Lord, what do you think I should do? And I do believe that God is always going to promote endurance, though. I personally believe that. That's not what I'm forcing on you. But I personally believe that God is always out to employ our endurance, because he knows the power of love, and that love can transform, But I also wanted to know that, what I wanted to know is that, let's say that we, was there, if we take that out, for the fact that we say, hey, that there wasn't any evidence that said that you should leave. What else made you stay?
It was honestly, Aquila, it was just my faith. Like, I don't know what really to put into words about it. It was literally my faith. I loved him. I still love him. From the foundation of our relationship, even though we were young, was genuine love. And I have always felt from the beginning of knowing him to now, today, that the Lord carried me through. He led us together. It was he's always been that person that I wanted to be with. It was never a doubt for me.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? So when as I've gone through, we've been through a lot of things, and we've been through a very, rough time, and we've been through a lot that people don't come through. Like you said, there are people who are 40 and 50 years old and may lose their children in a car accident. They're grown children, or and won't be able to make it through that and get divorced after how many years? We were married 2-3 years and went through catastrophic circumstances. And so for me, it was a matter of, I felt that the Lord walked with me through. He walked me through the death of my son. He's walked me through several losses physically, pregnancy. He walked me through all of this. And through all of this, all I felt that I was required to do was have faith. That, just hold on. That's honestly, it was my faith, because I mean, like I said, I've got to the point where I was literally on my knees saying, Lord, I know this isn't, this can't be what you want me to do. This cannot be possible. But you tell me. It was I never looked for an answer that I wanted. If the answer came down like, okay, no, you got to get up, take your kids, walk, I would have done that. But I've never had that. It never once came across to me that I needed to leave. And so I've held on. And I feel like in holding on, and I feel like in keeping my faith, that's what has helped my husband, because he realized that at some point it occurred to him, well, number one, she ain't leaving. And number two, why isn't she leaving? What does she see in me that is, worth staying? And am I giving her a reason to stay? Because it really wasn't coming from him. It was coming from God. I had to withdraw my trust in him and put it solely in God, and just say, what do you want me to do? It can't be about him. It has, what do you want me to do? Absolutely. When you do that, when you remove man, and man being human, from the equation, and you just put your faith directly into the Lord and say, okay, you lead, which is really what he's always told us is the purpose. He leads, we follow. He leads you to your mate. He leads you to your purpose. He does not tell you, okay, once you get here, you're on your own. The requirement is he leads, you follow, period. And I think that's where you talk about as far as the endurance, and when people stop enduring, I think it's because when you start to try to lean on your own power, when you're like, all right, God, I got to this point, I'm good. I don't need you now. Yeah, exactly. You don't. Of course, you didn't physically say that, but by your actions, that's right. You have removed him from the equation. God is not going to be a God that ever forces his way into your life. Absolutely, he's never going to force his way into helping you. He's not going to force himself upon it. He's going to stand back and say, all right, Jazz, you think you got it? Go ahead. And when you fall on your face, he's going to stand there and say, okay, are you ready? Because I'm waiting. And he's patient, and he will wait on you, and he will let you fall and hit your face and run into the wall several hundred times until you look up and say, okay, I'm tired of hitting my face. You go. And he will lead you. And that's really what it boils down to. When you put your faith in yourself, and that's why the verse says that you don't lean into your own understanding. When you take your faith out of yourself, and you take your faith out of other humans, and you remember what got you here in the first place.
That's the part right there. That's like, believe it or not, I that is so good. That is so good and so true, because where did you start? If you believe you started in love, then you should finish in love. And I had to, God had to remind me of that same thing. Like, the reason your marriages didn't work, Aquila, is because you tried to start with love and finish with you. Because you wanted things to go your way. You wanted it to look like how you wanted it to look. And that's a very real place, which is what also drives my passion to empower other people's endurance. Because because growth is going to happen in everyone. What that's going to look like, we don't know. What that path is going to look like, we don't know. But today, you guys are happily married. Yes. Your husband is with you, no longer in Afghanistan and all those things, correct? He's right here at home.
He is. He's not here at the moment, but yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's a world traveler. No. That is awesome. But so happily married, definitely here, with the family, has been overcoming depression and the little one. Oh my goodness, the little one wants to be involved in our interview, you guys, but and is obviously not too thrilled about not being included. But thank you so much, Jasmine, for sharing all of that wonderful information, because that is absolutely the truth. When you begin to take your eyeballs and your trust off of people and really begin to put that in the hands and the heart of God, God is able to do everything that he needs to do in you that helps to employ and empower your endurance. That's just really what I believe. I know we all have expectations, and people say, well, Quilla, what do I do with my expectations that my husband is supposed to just respect me? Keep those.
Absolutely.
Keep the expectation that your husband is supposed to respect you, but know that that teaching or that revelation may not come through your words.
Absolutely.
It may come through your actions of showing, endurance, because even with Jesus, the transformation that happened in people being in his presence was not all by words.
Absolutely.
It was in response. It was in him seeing in those people around him, seeing how he responded to the people who mistreated them.
One thing people have to, I just want to make sure, something that I've struggled with, that if this helps anybody, we have to remember, as humans, we have this natural need to try to control everything around us. It doesn't matter who you are or whatever. We have this need to control things around us. We pray to a certain point, and then we always think, okay, I got it. Okay, you cannot forget that God has a plan. And his plan is always going to endure. His plan is always going to override whatever plans we have. The only thing we can try to hope for and strive for is that our plans are going to be somehow in sync with his plan, so that, we don't get smacked in the face. But it never does.
And his plan is better anyway.
Absolutely it is. And I just think that, one thing, if it helps anybody, and me and Aquila actually talked about this earlier today. Remember one thing: the person that you meet,
absolutely,
the day one you met that person, whatever it was about him or her, you just fell in love, and you was just, it was butterflies and stars. I told y'all I felt butterflies. It was all the stuff in the movie. They was real. They were real.
There was anointed butterflies.
There was anointed butterfly, 19-year-old butterflies. Okay. But what has carried me is the person that I met at 19, for so many reasons, is not the person that I know at 31 and the person that I love at 31. And when you stand before God, when you stand on that altar or in front of that judge, whoever, it doesn't matter who you're standing in front of, because you're still standing in front of God, and you're making a vow and a commitment to that person. For better and for worse means exactly what it says. It's not an anomaly. It's not a symbol. It's not a, worse, but not really worse. No, worse as in horrific, terrible, drag in the dirt, worse. One thing you have to remember is maybe you don't go through the things that I've done. Maybe my worst is your absolute, your drop dead point. But think about this. Worse for you could just simply be that the person that you met at 19 is not the person you met at 31. Don't look at a person and think and expect that person to stay the same, because for whatever reason, life, aging, whatever, that person is going to change. They are going to change, and they may change in a way that you don't like. But at the end of the day, when you signed up for better or for worse, you accepted the fact that that person that you fell in love with is someone you're going to have to learn and fall in love with all over again multiple times. That's why they say it takes work. The fairy tale is that person that rescued you, quote unquote, is going to stay that prince forever. No, that's not going to be. The prince sometimes is going to turn back into a frog, and you've got to love the prince, the frog, the dirt. You have to be able to deal with that. And if you're not, if you can look at yourself, if you're not a wife right now, if you're thinking about you may be a wife one day, be sure before you sign your name on the dotted line of life, you are ready to take whatever worse means. As long as you are ready for that, that's going to be your endurance. That's going to be your safety net for the end of the day.
That is awesome, because that answers my final question, which was, what is some advice that you would give to a couple, whether they are married or unmarried? And what would you give to couples that are facing challenges? And I think that is definitely, and you also gave me an answer too to my other question of how do you define marriage? That's how amazing this interview is. When we in sync, y'all, we on one accord. Watch yourself, Jesus. The spirit is moving. It's real. One mic, two women by ourselves. Okay. I'm back. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. So So that was really that all encompassing with regard to those questions, because that is something. And what's so beautiful about what you said, and I was sitting here smiling. I wish you guys could have saw my face, but I was just smiling because I do say that very often to my clients, is that, you know, the way that my God, it's just okay. I'm super excited. I'm like over here stumbling all over my words. Okay, so for all the vow, right? Yes. For better or worse, sickness and health, rich or poor, as long as you both shall live. And you said something that is just so super awesome. So anyway, you said that, you know, drag through the dirt. Yes. And what I tell people oftentimes is that if love ain't working, it ain't love. Love has to work, because that's what love was created to do. God is love and Jesus is love. So they came and did some work, you guys. So if your love ain't working, it ain't love. And then the other thing is if Jesus was drugged through every part of the vow, he was drugged through dirt. Literally. Yes. Then love was drugged through dirt. Your love, to prove love's power alone, is going to be drugged through some dirt. Absolutely. So to just be encouraged, you know, Jasmine, I want to thank you so much for sharing your amazing story and entrusting us with your story here on Hustle Woman Radio. You have no idea how much it means, because so many people are ashamed to share their stories for whatever reason. And some of, you know, because they haven't understood the power of it yet, you know, is what I believe. May pay tribute to that. But every story has so much power to be able to liberate somebody else in their relationship, liberate a woman out there who said, I am praying and I'm holding on that there's something going to happen in my marriage and I don't see it yet. And you just set somebody free. You've just given somebody else, power in their endurance. And so I just wanted to thank you so much for being a guest on Hustle Woman Radio, because the joy of the Lord is our strength. Amen. So that the obstacles of life don't become our kryptonite. You guys, listen. I will have Jasmine Sim. She's probably going to get some followers after this, and I'm super excited for it. But this video is also, or not video, but this recording will also be on YouTube. It's going to be on Twitter. It's going to be on everywhere I can think of, LinkedIn, everywhere. Anyway, you know, Instagram. I don't know how to get on Instagram, but I'm going to figure out how to get that on Instagram. God doggone it.
Well, we're going to get her on Instagram. Don't worry.
I'm on Instagram. I got to figure out how to get this recording on Instagram, at least the link. Anyhow, we're going to get it on there. But anyhow, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is one of the longest interviews we have had, but I was super excited to get this information out to you, because I wanted to, as always, inspire women to become wives that transform lives. And you've heard it through Jasmine Sims, you guys, that love that sticks love that stands firm, and that it is dependent on God, because that's who employs love. Yes. You understand? Jesus is love, and God employed that. So God employs love and your endurance. And so she is a testimony that love does transform. And it may not be the most sexy road, but I definitely want you to know that it is effective, and that it is productive, and that it's real. The Hustle Woman, you guys, over and out. Until next time, stay tuned, you guys, for next week's episode of Hustle Woman, where we will be in week 10. Super excited for next week's interview as well. I love you guys, and as always, I'll see you on the other side of happy.
Me, baby, this is tragic, cause we had it, we was magic. I was flying, now I'm crashing. This is bad, real bad, Michael Jackson. Nah, man, real man.